I want to, first of all, I thought about this morning is that even though this has been seemed like a very fast session, it's been a very educational session also. And I just want to look at everybody and tell y'all how much I appreciate the committee members. I was concerned I may forget about that at the end. And I look forward to working with y'all next year again. And in the meantime, I know several of us have talked about different things that we may want to work with and talk about over the summer. So if you have any of those type of suggestions that will help us move things a little bit forward faster next year, we would be very open to doing that. So please don't think about that. I think all of us got each other's cell phone numbers and that type of thing for communication purposes. So, okay. Senator Burns, yes. You please do the prayer for us. What number are you? 13. There you go.
If you will join me, we'll open in prayer. Father, this is your day. You made it. You shared it with us. You've given us the opportunity of making a difference. Thank you. Be with this committee as we address the issues before higher education in Georgia, and give us your wisdom and your patience. In Christ's name, amen.
So I think I thought I knew what chaos was, but I think I've learned more about chaos today. From bills going back and forth, what's going to be on the agenda, not on the agenda, and so forth and so on. So we've actually had several things that have left the agenda that will be tabled, but most importantly, we've got Chairman Martin here for two bills, and we were ready because you got a committee meeting starting at 1:30, and we don't want to hold you up. Yes, sir. So yes, sir, and will you tell the bill number and the LC number so we can make sure we all. I'm looking at Jason. I don't see Jason.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have two before us today. If it please the chair, I think we were waiting on Senator Anavitardi to come for a portion of 249. I'd go to 319 first, if that pleases the chair.
Good. Thank you,
sir. Are we still working off the? We're still working off the as passed House version, Mr. Chairman. If we're doing that, we're working off LC 50-0479. Is that correct?
That's what's
okay. What this bill we often hear it, so I'll just repeat it again. This is a simple bill, although it's 25 pages long. What the action portion of the bill is all in section 2.1. It basically dissolves a portion of the Georgia Student Finance group. The Georgia Higher Education Assistance Corporation will be abolished with this bill, and that is a section of President Riley's function that is no longer needed. Loans under that, the federal loans under that program haven't been issued for I think almost a decade. The state sold its portfolio to another state, and they have been collecting and remitting money. So if we abolish this, we're not taking anything away from Georgians. This is just a superfluous piece of bureaucracy right now, and by abolishing it, when it's the secession is complete, we'll be able to return somewhere in the neighborhood of $28 million back into the state treasury for allocation to for the betterment of Georgia. It's that simple. The rest of the pages on the bill, 2 through 25, are references as we find them in Georgia code, which probably tells us that our code's a little larger than it needs to be. But we're just deleting the references to the Georgia Higher Education Assistance Corporation throughout the rest of the state code. And I should thank our attorney for finding all those for us and answer any questions.
Ms. Riley, you want to say anything?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I will just reiterate what Chairman Martin said. This is to remove bureaucracy that is no longer needed. The loans that were serviced by the corporation no longer exist. That program was suspended at the federal level. These were federal loans that no longer are in the control of the state of Georgia. We sold them off 10 years ago. The revenue sharing agreement that we entered into for selling them has expired. And so now all we have left left in this corporation are reserve funds that we can transfer with the dissolution to the authority, which is the second piece of our three-legged stool, and then that would be available for higher education financial programs in the future.
I was just going to say, at the appropriate time, I'll be glad to make a move to reduce the size of the bureaucracy in the Georgia State government.
Motion has been made by, oh, I'm sorry, all the way out there. Senator Moore. Hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I first saw this piece of legislation, my heart skipped a beat because it was so big. And then I read it, and I was super excited about it. And I love the term superfluous bureaucracy. And you're going to remove that. So my question for the author is, where can I send you an invitation to join the Freedom Caucus?
Anywhere in the 49th House District.
Thank Senator Harrell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we use that $28 million to fund the funding formula for the university system? I understand we're a little short on those funds on the Senate side.
Thank you for that question. The funds would need to be used for higher education financial aid.
Oh, financial aid. Oh, so needs-based scholarships.
Ultimate decisions would be for the members of the General
Yes,
Assembly.
thank you.
Thank you.
Give you an opportunity to discuss that in just a second.
Yes, right.
Senator Moore, I also was like you this morning. When I started reading it, I looked at 25 pages and I immediately called Ms. Riley and asked her tell me what it was all about. So that took away a lot of pressure. So we have a motion from Senator Hustetler. Do we have a second? Second from Senator Payne. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Raise your hand. Okay. Passes 100%. Thank you. And now we can move on to House Bill 249. And I still don't see Senator Anavercardi here.
If it pleases the chair, I believe I can cover his
Please do.
section. If
Please do.
I'm not sure I have the sub in front of me because it's not updated. If I could, is there a copy of the sub just so I can refer to line numbers?
Oh,
But
yes,
as we're moving toward that, the original bill, which I believe starts in your. Senator Chairman Hagman, if it pleases Chair, I'm going to speak to the original bill first, and then I'll go back to the Senator Anaventardi's portion. But the original bill that came over from the House is now starts in Section 2 of this bill. And the idea, if you will recall, last year in House Bill 1435, we put in place a merit-based means-tested program for students that were 80% through their degree or certification program. And what this is seeking to do is right-size that. We found out after we had gone last year that most financial planning is done on an annual basis. So the reason we went with 80% is we figured in a four-year program it was 25%, 50%, 75%. So we wanted to help people over that last mile, the last year. So we thought you'd be 80%, and you'd be 75% finished. We did not think that for two-year programs, one is not likely to be 80% through after 1 year of a two-year program. So what this seeks to do is break those into two parts, a four-year program, and we did lower it from 70 to 80. I'm sorry, from 80 to 70, because there is a possibility with Maymesters and that sort of thing that you could be on track for a four-year graduation, but not be quite to the 80% when you're doing your financial planning for the next year. And again, this is to make people eligible for the funding. It doesn't mean they get it. So if a financial advisor at a university looks and you're doing a course at a time, just because you're at 70%, you're not at your last mile. So this makes them eligible. So that's what we seek to do in lines 32 through 35 is 45% for a two-year program, 70% for a 4-year program. And then we were finding good results in the way the money was being allocated and spread. So we suggest that we raise the maximum total award to $3,500. Again, only $2,500 at max at the time. And that doesn't guarantee anybody the $2,500 at any tranche of the draw. But our idea is to system-wide across TCSG and the university system implement what has been referred to at Georgia State University as the Panther Grant. This is helping people to get across the finish line. So that's what we're trying to do in 249 as it passed the House. Now, what we have done, Senator Jason Anavantardi had a bill that I think you all may have looked at to allow military veterans that were discharged, and I don't know if the senator's here. I'll yield to the senator if it please the chair to speak to that.
You were doing such a great job. I'm just going to leave you alone.
But I never want to get between a senator and a microphone.
Yes, sir, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And real quick, just want to say thank you to Chairman Martin for his partnership on this bill and allowing us to work on this together. So you'll see in Section 1, lines 15 through 20. I think to every senator, this should be familiar. This is the CDL training, free tuition for veterans that we unanimously passed out of the Senate a couple weeks ago. And so we've added this language you'll see on line 15, subject to appropriations by the General Assembly. And we also put a sunset on this for June 30th, 2025, to work with TCSG on this, which I know the Mark Peavy and the Commissioner's Office approves, but this is some old language that you saw in Senate Bill 203. With that, I'll take any questions.
I think we have a question from Senator Orr.
Oh, well, thanks to Representative Martin for continuing on this journey to provide financial assistance to needy students that are seeking to move forward and get their degrees. This is another step forward, and I appreciate your leadership in that regard. I did, for my colleague from the Senate, a question I would have asked when we were dealing with this bill before and failed to do, is you're talking to the technical schools leadership. This includes both private as well, both private programs, training for commercial vehicle licensing, as well as public programs. Am I reading that right?
So I think the goal with this, I think, is to increase the number of enrollees under the technical college system. I think the concern that I've heard from trucking companies across the state is that a lot of the private companies who are doing training, the level of training and sustainability. For example, if I go to training and I'm going to work at Senator Nan Orrock's trucking company in East Georgia, the retention rate of that employee sometimes is 24 hours to 48 hours because they're not being skillfully trained on how to operate a truck. And I think we've seen the successes of our technical college, far surpass in some cases, believe it or not. I can't believe I'm saying this, but really the private sector, because of the level of retention. And I've heard that from trucking company owners across the state. So, and the other part of this too, and I know you're familiar with the Vector Center in Macon and Middle Georgia, where we have soldiers and airmen and women being honorably discharged from the military, from like Robins Air Force Base, wanting to do something that's non-military, non-law enforcement, start a company, start a job, do something totally different than what their background is in. And a lot of that interest has also been in the trucking industry. And I know they opened a CDL testing site at the Vector Center in Warner Robins. Mm-hmm. Because of that interest. So that's our primary focus with this section.
And I'm very supportive of the bill. We were able last year in the budget to get some more training facilities built into our technical college system in some key areas. I know that Coca-Cola, UPS, anybody you talk to that depends on trucking in the state, the ports, et cetera, we have a shortage. And this doesn't strictly say that they would get a commercial driver's license classification, but this is the training that enables them to qualify for that. So does this not apply? It does apply to the private sector as well as to our public.
Go ahead, Chairman.
I didn't look at the gentleman's language. We just moved over his language. I think it's a practical matter. What we're saying, Senator, is it's tuition free. I don't think we can require a private entity to provide a program tuition free.
Yeah.
So we're providing it tuition free, and that's
Right.
subject to us backfilling our university. I don't think we could. So
Exactly.
I think as a practical matter, this wouldn't apply to the private sector. That's something we could
Exactly.
look at going forward. But
Perfectly
and
perfectly
Mr.
clear
Chairman,
about that.
If I may, to Senator Orrock's first comment about the moves that we made with the support of this Senate committee last year, in both the Senate House and the governor, I want to refer to this completion grant as merit-based, means tested. Not that there's a problem with needs-based, but it's meritorious if you're 70% through a degree, a 4-year degree,
Right,
regardless of your financial situation. And I think just to call it needs-based is not giving the students that would qualify for this. And I know that the senator thinks the same thing, but I'd just really like us to start referring to this completion grant as merit-based, means tested, if you will, but merit-based, because it is meritorious to put your shoulder to the wheel and get 70%.
And have moved that close to your graduation.
In many
Yeah.
places in a very tough situation.
And if I could follow up with you on that, and then I'm through with it. But the language that's been in the law that was put in last year on line 26 and 27, a financial aid gap. Who's making that determination, and is there any more clarity on what that looks like? Is it just simply that? Well, I'll let you.
Yes, ma'am. It's a bit subjective. There are some other things that are in the bill that are more objective, if you will. But we have to some extent depend on our people that are on the ground in our
Right.
technical colleges and universities.
And allow for some flexibility.
Yeah, and I would be less than honest with this committee, and I never want to do that, to say that there won't be some leakage in this program. There will be some people that avail themselves of this money and do not complete a certificate or a graduation, but we have leakage in the Hope Scholarship. We have leakage everywhere.
Right.
This is a good in my opinion, this is a good investment on people that have gotten to this point through hard work, and they merit the opportunity for us to invest in them.
And I think being so speedy and responsive to what we've seen in our first year of the program to come with this legislation is I really applaud.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we had a lot of help from the folks at the university system, TCSG, and our financial aid offices around the TCSG and the university system have been very, very helpful to get this to students. And we need to get it out as 56 senators and 180 representatives. We need to let our constituents know that it's available.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, HB 249, LC 5000593S, do pass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No. 13. First of all, I fully support the legislation, and certainly completion grants have proven to be a tremendous asset to our students who are nearing that completion point and are prepared now to enter the workforce. So totally support that. I'd come back to Senator Orrick's question a little earlier. In section 1, for just to clarify, appropriations by the General Assembly for such purposes, so that the General Assembly would only support those training programs that are provided through either TCSG or USG. Is that right? And in truck driver training, it'd be TCSG. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. And I do agree with the authors on increasing the level of support from $2,500 to $3,500, because at the end of the day, that's the cheapest $1,000 we could ever spend. And I fully support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section 1 of the bill, to the Senator Anna Vittarde, You know, I think this committee and I think the General Assembly needs to recognize where a lot of the problem comes from when it comes to truck driver shortages. And that is that the federal government has mandated that in order to receive a CDL, you have to go to truck driving training school. And this has never been the case until the last couple years. So even if somebody was in the military and they were driving a truck and they knew how to drive the truck, when they got out, now the state is going to be subsidizing a further education of things that they may already know. Or if we've got farm kids in North Georgia or in South Georgia who have been driving a truck their entire lives, they still have to go to a truck driving training school, and then they have to pay for that education, even though it's not an education that they need. So I think the federal government has really burdened us in that sense, and I think this General Assembly at some point needs to consider allowing CDLs, as long as somebody can pass the appropriate test, to have a CDL in the state of Georgia without having to pay $5,000-$10,000 for truck driving school. But I just want to make note of that to the senator. But.
Yeah, and my response is to my good friend from Northwest Georgia. I know we've had plenty of trucking debates between your family, running trucks, and my dad becoming a truck mechanic in Vietnam and running Ryder truck shops all over Metro Atlanta. I think the goal of this is, I do believe that is true in the sense of, those maybe that run trucks in the military and are honorably discharged. I think the vast majority of those that are being honorably discharged from the military, like my dad was, I think their goal, I think, is to find a career that's outside of maybe what they were doing. So I think if you're, for example, maybe an MP officer or doing something else in the military, and you want to make a life for your family, most of them don't want to go into law enforcement. I think a lot of them want to kind of go into the upbringing and carry on kind of the traditions that your family and my family kind of had the opportunity to experience. So I think that's the goal. And I think based on the experience of what we've seen at the Vector Center in Warner Robins, and I know that another one was just opened in Cobb County. I know Chairman Martin and others were instrumental in making that funding happen with Chattahoochee Tech. I think that's kind of the bigger picture here, I think, in terms of who will be ultimately impacted by that.
Yeah, Senator, I support Section 1. I just feel it's an undue burden on our state. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at the risk of outstaying my welcome, I know there's you have a motion on the floor, so I'd like just after we get an affirmative vote here, I'd add something to the gentleman's point.
We had a motion by Senator Beach and a second by Senator Orrick. So we take a vote, and all in favor, raise your right hand. That's 100%. Thank you. 99%. God,
Now, Senator, I'm not going to answer the gentleman's question. No, I'm just kidding. I appreciate the comment. I would remind the senator that this year on House Bill 155, I believe it was unanimously supported in the House and the Senate, we made licensure by endorsement easier in the state for people coming from outside. So I'd be happy to work with the senator. I'm sure this senator and I would to do something like that for CDL, where you can bring your work from another state or from the military and get your license without extra seat time, if you would. So I'd be happy to work with the senator on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're going to go work on some Senate bills up in
So
House
if
Higher Ed.
we're going to take just about a 1.5 minute recess. So y'all just hold your thoughts a second. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Chairman Martin, we need to who's carrying the two bills? Sponsors.
I'll take care of it.
Both of them? Okay, good.
And I'm going to his committee.
Okay.
I got a bill over there.
Okay.
Thank you, Brandon.
I think y'all remember me telling you at first about chaos, and that's kind of what happened this morning. So I think I'll take full responsibility for messing some up. So, but anyway, we moving forward, and are we ready? And we're going to ask Chairman Hawkins to come forward for Senate Bill, House Bill 122. Oh, my fault.
This bill is a follow-up on a bill we did years ago that y'all remember, the Able bill. That bill was about
Thank you.
helping the disabled by moving the yard marker at a $2,000 limit on the entire assets for savings to 200,000 plus. What it did was it started a 529A, similar to the 529 Path to College. They could save funds into that. They could be used for the disabled needs. In other words, vans, ramps in a house. They had an opportunity to move out of the house of their parents and live on their own and receive a paycheck rather than a handout. This was a big thing for the disabled. I had a good friend and physician in Gainesville who has a son that was run over, and we actually raised money in the church and through the community and had Randy's house built and Rachel's house across the street for young women. What this bill does is it completes the circle for really a good idea. And it's the missing part of the circle was on the House side in Ways and Means, they did not want the state being at risk of any money on this project. So that means the parents had to bear the cost of the administration, the setup of the plans. That creates a financial hardship on people that are already behind the eight ball financially with their loved one. And I will have to give credit to our state treasurer. He came to me this summer and he said, you know what they're doing in other states? They're moving out of Ohio where we were, where the states joined together in their program. They're moving out of Ohio back to their home states, joining the 529 plans together. Doesn't commingle the funds, but uses the same board and uses the efficiency already present of the outreach for the 529 Path to College, and it really builds a program up. Judy Fitzgerald last year testified that 70% of BHDD participants would qualify for this if they knew about it. We have an opportunity to help the disabled in this state by a simple move of moving this back, combining the boards, and this is a bill that actually you voted on last year, passed through the House, and last year, and there was an amendment put on this bill that added a different subject title of a school project, and even some of your own senators had a hard time with that. I did not have the chance to get it back on the floor. I could have done that, but we had an ailing speaker back there at that time, and I recognized that, and I chose not to get up at the 11th hour and push him to do something. There's always another day, and I think this is the other day. You do have an amendment to this bill. It's a friendly amendment. When I presented the bill in the House this year, one of our chairmen felt like the governor really wanted to be on the board. The governor does not want to be on the board. So the amendment, if you want me to speak to that, I think you have the amendment. The amendment on line 30 strikes the governor as a chairperson. And then on line 29, after officer of the board, it says the board shall elect a chairperson from its membership. That's the only change. And that's the bill. We have a few people here that are in support of the bill. I know the hour's late, and you may want to just have them wave at you or whatever you want to do, Mr. Chairman. And you have this handout in your book, too.
Okay. Okay, your number. Go.
If time's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion do pass on LC 540201S. by committee substitute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have to do this first or second? Huh? Do it now? Okay. We also need to have an emotion on the amendments. Motion?
We're by committee substitute.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the amendment's not in the bill.
Okay. Then I'll make I'll change my motion to amend LC 540201 with the amended language of LC 540201S.
We can keep his original motion and then just have someone else motion to amend it.
Okay.
If you want to do it that way.
All right. Okay. Okay, then my original motion stands.
Okay, so who making a motion?
And I'll make a motion to amend it by substituting, this language in, LC 540201S, that line 2021 strike the governor's chairperson, line 21 capitalize C for chancellor, and line 29 after administrative officer board, add the board shall elect a chairperson from the membership.
Very good. Okay. Any other discussion?
I'll say, oh, did it get a
Yeah, it got a
You got to say that in. And we need to vote. All in
So we're
favor, raise your right
voting
hand.
on the amendment. We're voting on the amendment.
Vote on the amendment first. Raise your right hand. Okay? All pass? Okay, now we're voting on the bill itself.
As amended.
Okay. As amended.
Yes, so Senator Payne
Senator-
made the original motion.
Yeah. Senator Payne made it, and who seconded it?
No, we need a second.
Huh?
We need a
Okay, we need a second to that.
Senator
Senator
Orr-
Orr.
Orr- already seconded.
All right, she already seconded, okay. So all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, very good. I noted that, but I really didn't want to pay attention to you though. Yeah, I didn't want to give me credit for anything. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr.
You did very
Chairman.
well.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, committee. I
It's a
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Again, just remind y'all that during the summertime and all, in order to make us more efficient next year, if we need to talk about anything, I'm wide open, okay? So please do. Thank y'all. Yeah.